was definitely not gonna get the job, but somehow I got it, and I was like so curious and asked them like, how like why did you guys give me the job? Like I didn't think I was gonna get the job. I felt like I wasn't good enough or I didn't have enough knowledge. And the thing they told me is like, we could see you get better at every interview. We could see you asking questions, and and sometimes the technical questions, they would ask similar questions. And the first time I was able to answer it, but the next time I was actually able to answer it.
Hi, I'm Kyser Clark, and welcome to The Hacker's Cache, the show that decrypts the secrets of offensive security one bite at a time. Every week, I invite you into the world of ethical hacking by interviewing leading offensive security practitioners. If you are a penetration tester, bug bounty hunter, red teamer, or blue teamer who wants to better understand the modern hacker mindset, whether you are new or experienced, this show is for you. Welcome to the show. Today, I have Michael Kim, who has about 4.5 years of cybersecurity experience. He started out as a cybersecurity analyst, moved into cybersecurity engineer, and finally landed a pentesting job. He's been a pentester for the past 3 years and is currently a senior offensive security consultant. For education, Michael has a bachelor's in zoology. For certifications, he has the CRTP, the CRTO, the GAC Red Team Professional, the PMPT, the CH Master, the CompTIA Pentest Plus, and Security Plus. So, Michael, thank you so much for hopping on the show. Go ahead and walk through your background and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Kaiser. It's nice to meet everybody. So I currently work as the senior offensive security consultant for active services at Palo Alto. Started as a test engineer at Booz, and then that was my first job at Booz Allen. And then from there on, was able to join the pentest team, working on cross-domain solutions. From there, the next job was a pentester and just kept working in offensive security. And before my current job, I was working as a red team operator at Valiant. So, and I'm currently living in Virginia. Happy to be a part of the podcast. And I'm a huge fan of the podcast, been listening and been watching.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show and thanks for supporting the show and my content. It does mean a lot for everybody who watches and listens to my content. I do appreciate everyone's support. So let's go ahead and dive into what you were doing before you got into cybersecurity. You got your bachelor's in zoology, and that's one thing that you're trying to do. And what was all the other things you were trying to do? And yeah, just go ahead and walk through the whole story of how you got into cybersecurity and all the things that you were doing that led you to this point.
Okay, so I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Madison for my bachelor's degree. I originally was trying to go for a physics and biology, I guess double major, but then I kind of struggled. A lot of things that the class I were taking really didn't fit with me, so I kind of switched over to zoology, which was like I love animals. So I was looking, oh, this might be something that I'd be interested in, and I graduated with that. And after I graduated, I decided oh yeah, I was interested in biophysics and biotechnology. I think during that time when I graduated college, like there was like a huge trend in biotechnology. And so I was like, oh, let me get into this. So I kind of worked as I would say I joined a master's program in Korea, was doing working in biophysics for a little bit, did that, was not happy, and then I kind of quit and I was like not doing anything. And I was like, oh, I love music. Why not try music? Went into music, started DJing, started producing, did that for a couple of years. Parents, being Asian, were not happy. They were like, that's not a job, that's a hobby. And they're like, find a real job. So I was like, okay, I love animals and I had a bachelor's in zoology. It's like, let me try to get into maybe veterinary school. And I was like, okay, let me start as a vet tech. Started working as a vet tech. I loved animals, but working as a vet tech was one of the most difficult times of my life, I would say. It's not all sunshine and all that good stuff. Like you have to see and deal with animals being sick, and it was one of the most depressing jobs that I ever had. I loved animals. I loved seeing all the new puppies and everything, but then having to see a lot of dogs be put down, or like it was really bad. It was really weighing heavy on me. So then I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Switched over to, oh, let me go to pharmacy school. Let me become a farm tech. Try to become a farm tech. It was that wasn't fun either. It was just like, basically counting pills every day. And I was like, there, I was just like, there's like a pill counting type of like, I was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, there's this thing where like, you have pills on and you just start like, counting the pills, like how many pills there are. And there's like a light on it and it shows like how many pills that you put down. And then you like count 100 pills, you put them in the pill bottle, and you like, put them and send it to the the pharmacist, and then they do whatever. And then I was working in a very, very unsafe neighborhood. So we were like robbed a couple times too. So that was not a fun experience either. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. I tried to work in retail, tried to work as a server, tried to work as the uh, restaurant manager, and eventually went back to music, did music again. And then I was visiting my family right before the pandemic in Korea, and I was about to come back to the US, and that's when the first cases of like COVID were happening in the US. And my family was like, oh, you should stay until it gets better. And I was like, hey, I'll probably take a couple months. And it ended up taking a couple of years. During that time, I was like stuck at home doing nothing, playing with my dog. And I was like, there's nothing to do. And at that time, there's a huge cyber boom. Of like, there's a ton of boot camps popping up and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, you can get a six-figure job. Like, you just need to like, join like for a couple months, and it's 100% online. You can be wherever you want, and you just need to pay this much. It's not a small amount, but like, there's like multiple ways we can make this work. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Let me try this. Tried it out and never looked back. I met my best friends there, and like they're all over the U.S. working in different companies, different areas in cybersecurity. Majority of them are in offensive security, and yeah, that's how I started. And from there on, joined Booz, and yeah, that's how. And then now I'm here, so I'm super happy, glad that, and I would say I'm very fortunate. I got to this point within 3 years. I will hit my 3 year mark next month, so I would say been a very fast, chaotic journey. But yeah, happy to be here. And now I am on your podcast.
Well, thanks for walking through your background. And before we go any further, we have to get into the rapid fire questions. Are you ready for the rapid fire
Oh
round?
yeah, I've been watching. I've been seeing these rapid fire questions. I'm ready. I'm ready. Like I wanna make sure I hit all these questions as fast as possible so I can get like the bonus question.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, so I've already went. So I have a list of like 72 rapid fire questions, and I'll go through all 72, and I'll recycle them. So in a random order every time. So these questions have been asked before. So if you've listened or watched every episode, then you've already heard these questions. You just don't know which of the 72 you're going to get, or yeah, or what order you're going to get them in because it's random. But yeah. All right. For those who don't know, Michael will have 30 seconds to answer 5 questions. If he answers all 5 questions in 30 seconds, he will get a bonus 6 question unrelated to cybersecurity, and those questions are never repeated. Those are always fresh, and I'm pretty excited about this one. If he can get the bonus question. So, Michael, let's go ahead and get started here. Your time will start as soon as I stop asking the first question. Here we go. Michael, do you think cybersecurity industry is growing fast enough?
I would say that it was, but I think right now it's going through a whole transition phase where it's about to explode again.
Have you ever participated in a bug bounty program?
I have not, but I know friends that have, so I definitely want to do it in the future. I don't think I'm good enough yet, but in the future maybe.
Does compliance equal security?
That is a field that I'm not 100% like, really professional in, so I wouldn't say I know exactly, but I would say I kind of agree.
Most challenging part of your job?
I would say waking up early as possible, trying to not hit the traffic.
What operating system is your everyday PC?
It's Mac OS, but my favorite VM is always been Kali.
That was 42 seconds, so you're just over the time limit.
Oh,
Yeah,
I,
you gotta go quick, man.
I
Yeah,
thought I was quick enough.
I forgot to tell you not to provide any explanation. I just
Uh,
assumed you got it. You said you were watching the show. You should have
yeah,
known better.
yeah.
Yeah,
Damn it. Okay,
that's
I'll
all
try it
right,
next
man.
time. Next time. Next time.
You made some good points, and one of the things I want to expand upon was, do you think the cybersecurity industry is growing fast enough? So you said, there was a huge cybersecurity boom, and that's what made you kind of get in, and then it seemed like it started slowing down, but now you say it's starting to speed back up. Do you have any more insights there, or like why you think that, or go ahead and just expand on that thought?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like cybersecurity, you can't really just talk about cybersecurity by itself. I think you have to look at the bigger picture of IT and tech itself. Cybersecurity is like a small part of that from my viewpoint, from my perspective. Like this is all my opinion. So if anybody out there, if they disagree, I totally understand. If you want to discuss about it, we can always discuss about it. But from my opinion, like cybersecurity, I think is only a small part. Like there's like as you said, like there's like the compliance part, there's like the software engineer part, there's like the data part, like it's a whole part. But I feel like everything you can't really just talk about one part of cyber like this part of IT and tech. Everything kind of grows together. Like you can't have just one field grow by itself. That's too much. For example, like if AI, I think is one of the main reasons why I think an explosion is going to happen pretty soon. I think not only in cybersecurity but also in the software engineering area too. And as you know, there's like the huge meme going around called vibe coding, where like I think everybody does in somewhat kind of does vibe coding a little bit because like we all kind of because like AI has become so prominent these days, like not only in cybersecurity but like in a lot of different fields in tech, and everybody utilizes it not only in tech but like in their everyday lives too. Like there are people who are not even in this field who utilize like ask questions, they ask dumb questions like like and they just like ask philosophical questions, like ask like random questions. So it's become where I feel like it's kind of like where remember I don't know. I'm kind of old, so I would say I don't know how old you are, but like I went through the phase of like the what is it? Uh, well, let's say like the iPhone phase, like the actual Galaxy phone phase, where it used to be flip phones, and then we got an actual phone with a screen, with an actual computer, and I feel like during that time, at first it wasn't catching up as fast, but then it just like there was like a huge boom. And I feel like AI is kind of like where it's starting to become an everyday thing, and eventually it's gonna become so big where it becomes so prominent in our lives, like a cell phone, and it's gonna become a huge boom. And as AI goes up, compliance and the morality of AI is going to go up, and different types of vulnerabilities are going to pop up, and it's become so much easier for APTs to make or like I guess find ways or like become script kiddies, and script kiddie like the word script kiddie is no longer going to become like oh you're just someone just using a random script. You're going to become actually oh I don't know what the script does, but I can use AI to make it really lethal type of situation. So I feel like it's going to eventually become there's going to be a huge boom, is the way I see it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and especially the AI point. That's exactly what I was thinking of when I asked that question, because I think AI does is going to cause some security vulnerabilities down the road that we just haven't seen yet, and I think there's going to be some major cyber breaches coming down the pipeline that are because of AI, because it's not exactly the most secure thing in the world. There's been plenty of research that shows that AI isn't the most secure thing, and we also have a lot of businesses, and like you said, that's another point you mentioned. You said it's not cybersecurity can't just grow by itself. It has to go with AI, and I think it's got to go with business. And as businesses incorporate this new technology, AI, they're just grabbing AI all willy nilly and just putting it in their products and putting it in their business and not really understanding the repercussions of it, because most people don't really understand how cybersecurity works and the risks and the threats that are out there. And I think some companies are going to get toasted here in the pipeline. And I think when we start seeing these cyber breaches in the news, the cybersecurity industry will start booming again. And like you said, I do agree with you. Like I got into cybersecurity at that same time. Like when that boom and like you said, like the boot camps, like you can get a 6-figure job by doing 2 weeks of training. You're like, that's there's millions and millions of unfilled jobs, and it's like, man, that's I'm gonna be employed for life. Like I was doing this research for school, and it's like unemployment rate 0% for cybersecurity professionals, and everybody makes 6 figures. And then when I got in the military, and I realized that it was a lot harder to find a job than I thought.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a cold reality check, which is one of the reasons why I make the content that I do, because I seriously thought, coming out of the military with my 12 certifications and my 6 years of experience in cyber defense operations, I thought that I would have a line of employers just like waiting to just hire me and just pay me stupid amounts of money, and that just wasn't the case. I got 2 job offers, and they were, they were paying well, but I ain't gonna lie, like the pay was a little bit lower than I thought I was gonna get for my first job out of the military. So,
Hmm.
but I do see it turning around. So if you are trying to break in the field and you are struggling, that's I would say that's pretty normal right now. But in the future, I think it's gonna blow up again, and it just goes in cycles. I mean, we did go through a down economy. Like we did technically go into a recession. I don't know, like a couple years ago or something like that. So it
Hmm.
definitely has a lot to do with the way the economy is, and it's cybersecurity, like you said, just can't grow on its own.
Hmm.
Great discussion. But let's go ahead and dive into our main topics here. So, as you said, you watched the show and we had some guests talk about boot camps, and they had some pretty strong opinions about boot camps. And my opinion's been out there. I'm not a big fan of them. I've actually never done one because I just never saw it worth it. So you have a little bit of an opposing opinion. So yeah, what do you think about boot camps?
I think at the same time, like, it's you got to be careful with anything, with any type of, like, I guess education, like not only boot camps, but also for schools too. Like, you got to be careful where you join and where you get information and where you go to. But I think like it depends on what you're looking for. For me personally, like I like the structure. I like the structure and I like the kind of goal. I like the guidance. And like, I know there's boot camps out there where like they kind of scam you. They take your money. They don't really provide you. And like I've talked to a lot of people who've been through that. Like, they're like, oh, and they have really negative opinions about boot camps. And it's like, I totally understand. Like, that's your opinion. That's your experience. For me personally, I would say it was one of the best decisions that I ever made because like that's where I met my best friends, and I would say that luck definitely plays a big part in a lot of things that we do. Like, not only job hunting, but also like interviews and like, job going to new jobs, like meeting new like amazing coworkers, making amazing friends. Luck plays a big part, and I think I was very, very lucky. But at the same time, like as I said, like I when I hear people talk about like, oh yeah, boot camps are all scams and everything, I have to disagree. I feel like there probably is, I think, a lot of boot camps that are out there that are probably scams, but I think there are good boot camps out there that are actually trying to help. And like, any boot camp, any school, any type of education type of provider. They're trying to make money. Like that's you can't hate them for trying to make money because like that's how they pay their employees and that's how they continue on trying to like continue on, I guess, working, making their boot camp work. But for me, like I went to Evolve Security Academy and it was a good experience. I met amazing people there. My team lead was amazing. I still talk to him, and he's like he's a offensive security adversarial red teamer at Deloitte. And I whenever I have like some type of I need advice, I always call him. I just call him, message him, is like, I need advice. I'm about to do this. What do you think? And he's always been there for me. So and then, like the people that I used to like, were at the boot camp, we all keep in contact. There are definitely people that like, kind of like fizzled off, but the majority of people that I know from there, like we help each other, we talk to each other, we try to do boxes with each other. It's just it's been a good time, a good experience. And like having that structure of where like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then at the end we're gonna do kind of like a phishing campaign where like, and it's kind of where we're actually working with a specific company where it's like this company is allowing us to do a phishing campaign with them, and this the boot camp kind of has like a partnership with this company where they allow it and they do like a free type of pen test. And for me, it was amazing experience. It kind of showed me where like what I want to focus on. And I have to say, I was very heavily leaning towards pen testing from the start because everybody in my team lead was working already as a pen tester. So we were everybody that was working or in that group, we were heavily influenced by that. So everybody's like, we all want to be offensive security engineers. We want to work in pen testing. So that's how I started, and I never looked back. And I would say, I understand, as I said, there are a lot of boot camps out there, and there's probably a lot of scamming boot camps out there. But at the same time, if you do your due diligence and always ask Reddit, always ask your friends who've been going through that, and try it out, I feel like it is worth it. And even if you don't have the money, there are a lot of different ways you can pay it off. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of boot camps can be kind of pricey. So I would say that's one of the downfalls. And they might not have a really good environment for you to learn on. But my experience with Evolve Security Academy was really nice. They had a good environment to study and do everything on. So I would say if you want to try to go through a boot camp there, if you do better with structure and guidance, boot camps are definitely a good method and way to go, I would say.
That's a good point. It's a good opposing argument that I never even thought about, like the networking aspect of it. Because for me, I like that structured learning too. That's why I have so many certifications, because certifications offer you uh, semi-structured environments. Not as structured as a boot camp, but it's way more structured than just trying to figure it all out on your own. So that's why I like certifications. But the thing with certifications is you're typically self-studying for them. I mean, with the exception of the OffSec certifications that I have, I don't interact with like other classmates. But like with OffSec, like there's a Discord and you're interacting with people in there and you're, you know, learning from them and you're helping other people out. And but yeah, for the most part, for certifications, like you're kind of on your own. So that's a really interesting point you bring up for about boot camps. And speaking of, networking and building up your network, so you have over 13,000 followers on LinkedIn, and you know a thing or two about building a network. So, in your opinion, like what what is the secret to networking in this field? And more importantly, like how should people be networking? How should people be using LinkedIn?
I think LinkedIn is one of the most underrated tools out there. I think like I know a lot I see a lot of people talk about how like, oh yeah, utilize LinkedIn, like that's how you can get jobs, how you can make connections, everything. But I think it is very underrated because like it's one of the for me the way that I treated. So as you know, like I told you, my background was music, and I worked on producing music and DJing. In that field in music, self promotion is very important. That's how you get gigs. That's how you can collab with different artists. You got to put yourself out there. Like, that's why I utilize like, Instagram to post my music, or like, or SoundCloud to post my mixes, or like, just reach out to like clubs, reach out to people just to build that kind of like, connection and network. And I just saw LinkedIn, and I actually, the funny thing is, the boot camp taught me about LinkedIn. I didn't even know about LinkedIn back then. And they're like, oh yeah, so we have a section about LinkedIn and like how you should utilize LinkedIn. And I saw it. It's like, oh, this kind of reminds me of like this regular like social media that I use to self promote myself. So it's like, okay, let me just do the same thing. Let me apply my mindset that I had on how I self promoted myself and other social media streams, and apply that to LinkedIn. So I tried to learn how to utilize it to the best that I could, and learning the different features, understanding how to promote myself on there. And like I think it is a little overpriced, I would say. It's expensive. LinkedIn Premium it's not cheap, but it is worth it. And especially like, I think the thing about it is it's good and showing, I think like having that gold badge next to your name on your profile, it looks shiny and it's about like, it kind of comes off as professional. And that's one thing that you definitely want to work on. I think making that I try to work on my like my specific LinkedIn profile, making it look as professional as possible, show what I'm doing, share as much as possible what I'm doing, what I'm working on, what I did, and try to build that connection and like reach out to people if like if I see someone have that certification that I got or getting a certification that I want, like oh that's awesome, congratulations. Like I asked them like can I get some like an advice on that, like how was it, like just reaching out like that was like the best way to build like that connection and network. And also like having that like LinkedIn Premium feature was also a good thing, is like where a lot of people kind of like to stalk people on LinkedIn. And you can change. So if you don't have the premium, everybody knows that you stalked them. And if you stalk them multiple times, you you can get kind of weirded out. It's like, why did this person like come to my LinkedIn profile so many times in this past week? Like I see they've come here like at least 10 times, and like and then that's the thing, like vibe checking and having coming off and like having that putting off that certain type of vibe is very important, because like you want to make sure that you don't come off as desperate. You want to come off as like awkward or strange. And if you visit someone's profile 10 times in a week, like doesn't matter what you say, they're going to be like, strange danger. So, so having one of the big things I liked about the premium feature was the fact that you can change your visibility to where like it's anonymous. So nobody knows that you visited, because like it'll just pop up as anonymous. And after that, I put that on and I started stalking so many people and seeing what they did, what they worked on, what kind of certifications they had, where they're working at, and kind of envisioned like I would see people like working at places I would love to work at. And it's like, and I looked at like their career progression, what they did, how they build profile, and who they're connecting with and everything. And I just kind of started trying to build a list of what I needed to focus on and try to build myself up. It's all about learning from other people and building those networks. And once I kind of started building myself up, then once I had kind of like a little bit of a professional vibe on my LinkedIn, that's when I started like reaching out to people, because you don't want to reach out to people without like, I feel like having no banner, no picture, and nothing, no profile summary, and no job description, no certifications. You reach out, is like, hey, like like it's nice to meet you. I just want to like get like know more about you and what you do. Reaching out like that kind of gives kind of like, I want to be very careful how I say this, because I know these days you can get canceled if you say something wrong. So I want to be very careful about like it can come off not in a very good way, I would say. So building yourself up, making sure you come off in a certain way, in a professional way, and it's a lot more easier to approach people, I think. And also, I think when I first started, I like sent connection requests like a madman. And another good thing about the premium feature is like it definitely gives you a lot more freedom to, not a lot more additional connection requests. You can send as many connection requests. There is a limit still. There is a limit where like there after a certain amount, I think 100, 150 or something, at a certain amount, they're like, oh, you're at your quota. You have to wait a week until you do that again. So there's like those type of features. And also another premium feature is the fact that you can send messages to like there's sometimes you can send messages to people that have like certain type of filters on them. Like there's people have filters where like, oh, they won't allow you to send messages unless you're connected to them. And there's a lot of like recruiters are like that who set that filter up. But then since I'm a premium feature member, I have like tokens that I can use where I can send specific messages to recruiters or people who have the filter up. So there's a lot of those. But like I can go on about like LinkedIn features, like also like the fact that like I send so many connection requests to people on specific companies that I want to work at, like people who work there, recruiters, hiring managers, CEOs, CTOs, CISOs. Like I was like a madman. I'm very, very. I once I have a goal, I can become very, very like addicted to something like until I achieve a goal. So, but I said I don't want to say too much, but like I said I want to try to stop myself because I can go on and on and on. So I'll try to stop myself there.
Yeah, I could talk all day about LinkedIn networking myself, for sure. But we're getting a little pressed for time here, so
Mm-hmm.
we got to move on to the next topic, which is you brought up this vibe check thing. So, how important is the vibe check going into interviews, and why is that one of the most important skills to have?
I think it is like not it's I think it's nearly as important as your technical skills. I think everybody in this field, not only in cybersecurity, not only in IT, in any field, you've worked with people that you don't like and you don't agree with, and it's like one thing where you can disagree, and it's another thing where you can hate someone. And if you're in an environment where you're working with people that you do not like, it's very difficult to stay there a long time. And because like you want to be in an environment where you're in a supportive, collaborative, happy to work environment. You don't want to work with people that hate your guts and you hate their guts because it's so toxic. You don't want to be in a toxic environment. And the vibe that's why I feel like vibe checks are so important when you do interviews. Like there's usually if you do interviews there's maybe let's say there's three interviews. There's like a technical like a technical interview. There's another technical interview, and there's like a vibe check interview. I think a lot of people think that, oh yeah, I just need to do a good job in the vibe check interview. I feel like all interviews are somewhat vibe checks. Not all even the technical interviews, because like if you're interviewing someone and like let's say you're interviewing someone and they come off as standoffish, they come off as not humble, they come off as having such a huge ego, and they come off as being snarky. Doesn't matter how smart they are. I don't think anybody would want to hire that person. Because like at the end of the day, you're going to be working with that person and you want to at least enjoy working with that person. At that point, I would rather hire someone who has less knowledge than person and is actually a nice, decent human being that you can. Because like I feel like skills you can learn as long as you put in the effort, and you can go in a company and they can give you like the certain type of guideline of what you need to study, everything you can teach that. You can't teach human decency, and you can't change a person's personality. That's like something that I wouldn't say you were born with, but that's more something that that's who you are as a person, that you came to this point in your life. So that's why I feel like vibe checks are super important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I actually said that in one of my videos. Is like 9 times out of 10, when you get declined for a job, it's especially one that you feel qualified for. It's not because you didn't have the skills; it's because you didn't pass the culture fit for that company. My company was doing some interviews, and they said during one of our pen testing meetings, they're like, we were doing some interviews. This guy was qualified, but wasn't a good culture fit. And but don't take it personally though either, because like if you get declined because of a culture fit, that's actually doing you a favor, especially if you go in the interview being your genuine self. You don't want to not fit in with the people you want to work it with. So you don't want to put on this like fake face about trying to fit into the culture. You don't want to try to force yourself to fit in that culture just to get a job. You want to be your genuine self. And if you get a job being your genuine self, then you're going to enjoy that job so much more. And I was thinking about this today because I put in some memes in my team's chat, and my teammates get a kick of my memes. At least a fair amount of the time. They don't, not all of them hit, but such is a life when you're a meme lord. But yeah, that's really a good point you bring up, and I'm glad you mentioned that because a lot of people don't get that. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we need to get to the final question, which is: do you have any additional cybersecurity hot takes or hidden wisdom you would like to share?
Huh. I would say interview. I can talk a little bit about interviews, my experience wise. I feel like this one, I think everybody probably knows. Always be humble when you enter an interview. Always be humble. Never act like you know stuff. Always. And then also always ask questions. Like if you don't understand a question, always ask. And one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't do is after, and let's say that you got a question, like a specific technical question, and you didn't know how to explain it. And at the end of the interview, the interview usually asks, "Do you have any questions for us?" I like to write down all the questions that I didn't know, or the questions that I kind of was more curious about, and I would ask that, I would ask them, like, if there's some time, could you please like talk about, like, can you give me, explain to me what kind of answer would have worked for that specific question, or can you go more into detail of what you talked about earlier on? And I feel like that's always a good thing because it shows that you're willing to learn. And also, I think one of the things I think one of the interviews that I did for a company, like, I thought I wasn't gonna get, I was definitely not gonna get the job, but somehow I got it, and I was like so curious and asked them, like, how, like, why did you guys give me the job? Like, I didn't think I was gonna get the job. I felt like I wasn't good enough or I didn't have enough knowledge. And the thing they told me is, like, we could see you get better at every interview. We could see you asking questions, and and sometimes the technical questions, they would ask similar questions, and the first time I was able to answer it, but the next time I was actually able to answer it. And I have a lot. I have like a list. I have my own notes. I have a list of so many questions that I got from interviews that I didn't know, which I asked or I kind of like researched myself. So in the future, if somebody asked me the question, I would be ready. And I feel like that is a big thing. Always ask questions. It's okay not to know. You can always learn. Like, this is a field where we never stop learning. If you are learning something or you're in this field and you feel like, oh my God, when does it stop? When do I have to stop learning? If you have that type of mindset, you're in the wrong field, man. This is a field like where until the day you die, you're gonna learn new stuff. New vulnerabilities are gonna come up, new exploits are gonna come up, new attack vectors are gonna come up, new certifications are gonna come up. Like, maybe in the future we'll probably see OSCP plus 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 plus. I don't know, but like, it's like, interview as much as possible. Do not be afraid to interview. Do not be afraid to fail, because every time you fail, you learn something. And I think that's the biggest thing about interviews is always try to get something out of that interview. I would say that's my biggest take.
Great advice. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah,
Michael,
absolutely.
thank you so much for being here. Thanks for all the expert opinions and insights that you brought to us. Where can the audience get a hold of you if they want to connect with you?
Oh, they can come to my LinkedIn. Just send me a connection request. Send me a message. Like, just like try to interact with me. Like, I'm always down to talk. And if you come off in a very, if you come off in a very awkward and strange way, like, I will let you know. Well, no, I'm just joking. But I said, like, it's everybody's different. Everybody has their own personality. So, like I said, like this, if you want to reach out to me, please just send me a message.
Yeah, make sure you have a profile picture and you're not stalking him 10 times in 1 week. He said that in the episode, and if you miss it, you got to rewind and listen to that part. All right, audience, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. If you want to connect with me, the best place to reach me is also LinkedIn and my website, kyserclark.com. Hopefully, I see you in the next episode. Until then, this is Kyser signing off.